In a Phoenix self-storage facility off Interstate 17, behind a roll-up door that looks identical to the 2,000 other units on the property, there is a man named Marcus who has been living inside a 10 by 10 storage unit for the past 14 months. He has a memory foam mattress on the concrete floor, a small hot plate powered by a marine battery. He charges at the public library twice a week, a camping toilet in the corner with the waste sealed in biodegradable bags he disposes of at gas station dumpsters during his morning walks, and a length of plastic tubing he ran through a small drilled hole in the back wall, which connects to a rainwater barrel he hid behind the facility's dumpster enclosure. From the outside, his unit looks like any other: a padlock, a number stenciled in white paint, a corrugated metal door. But from the inside, Marcus has built something that resembles a home. There are shelves, a reading lamp, a small framed photo of his daughter on a milk crate that serves as his nightstand, and a ventilation pipe that vents through the roof, disguised to look like part of the facility's existing infrastructure. He installed it himself, using a hole saw he bought at a Phoenix Home Depot for $28. Marcus is not alone. Across the United States, an estimated tens of thousands of people are quietly living in storage units, abandoned commercial garages, forgotten residential garage bays, and unused industrial spaces. They have figured out how to run electricity, how to access water, how to stay warm in winter and cool in summer, and how to remain almost completely invisible to the property owners, the police, and the cities they live inside. This is the story of how that world actually works. The first thing to understand is that storage facility living is not a fringe phenomenon. It has been documented in Phoenix, Los Angeles, Houston, Atlanta, Detroit, and dozens of mid-sized American cities. The two largest self-storage companies in the country, Public Storage and Extra Space Storage, together operate more than 4,000 facilities. Both companies have official policies prohibiting habitation. Both companies have employees who, in practice, accept cash payments to look the other way. A former assistant manager at a public storage location in suburban Denver, who spoke under the condition that his name not be used, described a system where roughly 1 in every 15 units at his property was being lived in. He knew, his district manager knew, as long as the rent was paid in cash and the residents kept quiet, nothing was reported. The math was simple. An empty unit generates nothing. An occupied unit generates rent, plus the unspoken tip that came with the arrangement. He estimated that he was personally pocketing an extra $800 a month from these arrangements during his time at the facility. The pattern repeats at independent storage operators, where the oversight is even thinner. In Las Vegas, a privately owned facility off Boulder Highway was found in 2024 to have 19 units occupied as dwellings, with the on-site manager actively renting them out as illegal apartments at $300 a month. The cash never made it to the property owner. The manager was eventually fired, but no criminal charges were filed. The residents themselves have developed remarkable engineering solutions to the problems of indoor living without official utilities. Electricity is the most common challenge, and the most common solution involves what people in this world call tapping. Storage facilities have lighting circuits that run along the ceilings of every hallway. Someone with basic electrical knowledge can splice into one of these circuits from inside a unit, running a thin wire through the gap between the corrugated door and the frame. From there, the wire connects to a small power strip hidden behind storage boxes. It draws so little current that the facility's monthly electrical bill barely registers the difference. The work is dangerous. Electrocutions have been documented, including a fatal incident at a storage facility in suburban Atlanta in 2022, where a resident was found dead from contact with an improperly grounded splice. The community that exists around this kind of living has produced its own informal safety guides, traded on Reddit threads and at warming shelters. The consensus is that tapping should only be done by someone with actual electrical experience, and that batteries are the safer route for everyone else. For those without electrical skills, the alternative is batteries and battery storage. Auto parts stores like O'Reilly and AutoZone sell deep cycle marine batteries for around $200. Paired with a small inverter, these batteries can run a hot plate, a phone charger, a fan, and a string of LED lights for 2 or 3 days before needing to be recharged. Charging happens at libraries, fast food restaurants with outdoor outlets, or community centers. A Starbucks in downtown Phoenix has become an unofficial charging station for at least a dozen storage facility residents in the area, who rotate in throughout the day, buy the cheapest coffee on the menu, and plug in their batteries beneath the tables. In sunnier states, solar has become the gold standard. A folding 100-watt solar panel costs about $120. Residents place them on the roofs of their units during the day, accessed through small modifications to the unit's ceiling vents. The setup is invisible from the ground. A small solar charge controller, available on Amazon for around $40, manages the flow into a battery bank. The whole system, end to end, can be assembled for under $500 and provides enough daily power to run a small refrigerator, a fan, and lighting indefinitely. Water is harder. Storage facilities almost never have plumbing inside individual units. The workarounds fall into 3 categories. The first is the simplest: 5-gallon water jugs, refilled at public restrooms or commercial spigots. Walmart sells them for around $20. A single jug can last one person 3 days if used carefully for drinking, cooking, and a sponge bath. The refill locations are a small economy of their own. Some residents have arrangements with sympathetic gym managers who let them fill jugs in exchange for occasional cash. Others use construction site spigots after hours, which has its own risks if a foreman shows up unexpectedly. The second is access-based. Most storage facilities have 1 or 2 communal restrooms intended for office staff or daytime customers. Residents memorize the cleaning schedules and the security camera blind spots. They time their bathroom visits to early morning or late evening when the property is quietest. Some have figured out how to use the keypad entry codes to enter the facility outside of posted hours, taking advantage of codes that were issued to former customers and never deactivated. The third method is the most elaborate. In cities with reliable rainfall, residents construct gutter and barrel systems that collect water from the roof of their unit. This is particularly common in Pacific Northwest cities like Portland and Seattle. The water gets filtered through coffee filters and then run through a UV sterilizer, the kind backpackers use for wilderness camping. The whole setup costs under $60 and provides functionally clean water for months at a time. In Portland, one resident profiled by a local nonprofit had built a 3-stage filtration system using activated charcoal and ceramic filters, producing water that tested cleaner than the city tap supply. Heating in winter is where things get dangerous. Every year, fire departments across the country respond to fatal blazes in storage facilities and garage units that turn out to have been caused by makeshift heating arrangements. The most common culprit is the propane Mr. Heater Buddy, a small portable heater that has saved thousands of lives in tents and ice fishing huts, but is not designed for sealed indoor spaces. The deaths usually come from carbon monoxide, not fire. A Cleveland storage facility lost 2 residents in January 2023 to exactly this scenario, with both bodies found in adjacent units after a maintenance worker noticed an unusual smell. The investigation revealed that both men had been running propane heaters with the unit door closed, trying to retain warmth during a stretch of single-digit overnight temperatures. Neither had a carbon monoxide detector. In response, an informal community of advice has developed among storage unit residents. The consensus, shared on Reddit threads and at warming shelters where these residents sometimes pass through, has settled on ceramic electric space heaters. They run on the same hardwired or battery power as the rest of the unit. They produce no fumes. They cost about $30 at any Walmart or hardware store. Insulation is the next problem. Storage units are made of thin corrugated metal, which radiates heat in summer and bleeds it in winter. The standard solution is Mylar emergency blankets, the kind handed out at marathons and disaster sites, stapled or taped to the inside walls of the unit. They cost $1 each. 100 of them, layered correctly, can drop the unit's heating requirements by half. More sophisticated setups use foam board insulation cut to fit between the unit's wall ribs with the Mylar layered on top. The total cost is under $200 and can transform the thermal performance of the unit entirely. Garage units in residential neighborhoods operate by completely different rules. In Los Angeles, the city's accessory dwelling unit ordinances, originally designed to address the housing shortage by allowing legal garage conversions, have created a strange parallel economy. Homeowners who don't want to go through the permitting process simply rent out their garages under the table. Cash only, no lease, no utilities through the main house. The tenant is expected to figure out their own arrangements. A 2023 investigation by KCRW estimated that there could be as many as 50,000 people living in unpermitted garage conversions across Los Angeles County alone. Some of these spaces are reasonably habitable, others are essentially the same as the storage unit situation, with the added benefit of being inside a residential lot rather than a commercial facility. The rent for these spaces typically ranges from $400 to $900 a month, depending on the neighborhood. The tenants are often working people, day laborers, restaurant workers, gig economy drivers. They have jobs and income, but not enough to afford an apartment in a city where the median one-bedroom rent now exceeds $2,400. A line cook working at a restaurant in West Hollywood, profiled by the Los Angeles Times in 2024, described renting a detached garage in Pico Union for $600 a month. He had run an extension cord from the homeowner's outdoor outlet, used a 5-gallon bucket as a toilet, and showered at the gym he had a membership at specifically for the access. In San Francisco and Seattle, the pattern is similar, but with smaller numbers and higher rents. A garage bay in the Mission District might rent for $1,100. A converted detached garage in Capitol Hill with a small bathroom and a hot plate might go for $1,500. These are not legal rentals. There are no leases. The tenants have no protections. If the property owner decides to evict, there is no process, no notice period, no legal recourse. The tenant simply has to leave. When discoveries happen, they tend to make local news. In Phoenix, in 2023, a tip to the fire marshal led inspectors to a self-storage facility on the west side of the city, where they found 43 people living across 12 units. The story ran on local television. The facility was fined. The residents were given 72 hours to vacate, and most of them simply moved to other storage facilities a few miles away. That is the pattern almost everywhere. The system displaces, but it does not solve. The same 43 people who left that Phoenix facility were still homeless 73 hours later. They just found new units. Local outreach workers who tried to connect with them reported that only 6 of the 43 accepted any form of transitional housing services. The rest preferred their existing arrangements, even with the disruption, to the alternatives the city was offering. Detroit, in 2022, produced one of the more remarkable cases. Inside an abandoned commercial garage complex on the east side of the city, urban explorers discovered a network of 17 connected garage bays that had been quietly converted into something resembling a small community. There was a shared gasoline generator, a shared bathroom shed with a composting toilet, a central area with folding chairs and a propane camping stove used for communal meals. The residents had been there for at least 8 months. They had a rotation system for security, with one person staying awake during overnight hours. They had rules about noise and visitors. They had a small library of donated books. They had even painted murals on the interior walls of some of the units. They had, in effect, built a functioning village inside an abandoned building, with nobody on the outside aware of its existence. When it was discovered, the response was uncharacteristically gentle. Detroit's homelessness response coordinator at the time, instead of clearing the site, worked with the residents to connect them with transitional housing programs. 12 of the 17 accepted placement. The rest disappeared into the city and presumably re-established similar arrangements elsewhere. The garage complex itself was later demolished, with the city citing safety concerns. The legal situation around all of this is complicated. Storage unit habitation is not technically illegal in most jurisdictions. The contract you sign when you rent a unit says you cannot live there, but violating that contract is a civil matter, not a criminal one. The worst that can usually happen is eviction. The same applies to garage rentals, though the legal exposure shifts to the property owner, who may face fines for operating an illegal dwelling unit. In some cities, this has begun to change. Sacramento passed an ordinance in 2024 that specifically deprioritized enforcement against storage unit residents, instead requiring outreach workers to be notified when a discovery happens. The idea was that punishing people for surviving was not solving anything, and that connecting them to services was a better use of city resources. In the first 6 months after the ordinance took effect, the city's outreach teams connected with over 200 storage facility residents, and roughly a third of them entered some form of transitional housing. Other cities have moved in the opposite direction. Several Texas municipalities have made it explicitly criminal to occupy a non-residential structure as a dwelling, with penalties including jail time. The reasoning, according to one city council member quoted in the Houston Chronicle, was that allowing these arrangements to continue normalize substandard living conditions. Critics of the law pointed out that it did nothing to provide alternatives, and that the criminalization simply added jail time to the list of obstacles facing people who were already struggling. Both positions have merit, and neither addresses the underlying issue. The underlying issue is math. The median rent in the United States is now roughly $1,900 a month. The median wage for a full-time worker is roughly $3,800 a month before taxes. After taxes, after food, after transportation, after any kind of medical or family obligation, a substantial percentage of working Americans simply cannot afford a conventional apartment. The Department of Housing and Urban Development estimates that 2.3 million Americans cycle through some form of homelessness in any given year. Not all of them end up in storage units or garages. Many sleep in cars, on couches, in shelters, but a growing share, particularly in expensive metros, find their way to these informal arrangements. The trend has been accelerating since 2020, with researchers at UCLA and the University of Chicago independently documenting sharp increases in non-traditional housing arrangements in their respective cities. What is striking, talking to the people who have lived this way, is how clearly they understand the economics. Marcus, the man in Phoenix, used to be a logistics coordinator at a regional trucking company. He lost the job in 2022. By the time his savings ran out, the apartment market in Phoenix had moved past what his unemployment benefits could cover. The storage unit at $190 a month was simply the only math that worked. He is not the exception. He is increasingly the rule. His neighbors at the facility in Sudamore, a retired postal worker whose pension does not cover Arizona rents, a woman in her 30s who works full-time at a Phoenix airport coffee shop, and a former contractor who lost his business during the pandemic and never recovered. None of them describes their situation as permanent. All of them describe it as the best option currently available. There are people doing this in every major American city right now. There are people in detached garages in Los Angeles, in storage units off the highways in Florida, in converted commercial bays in Detroit and Cleveland and St. Louis. They have figured out water. They have figured out electricity. They have figured out heat. They have built lives, in some cases, that are stable and quiet and functional given the circumstances. Whether that is a triumph of human resourcefulness or an indictment of the country they live in depends on where you sit. But the engineering is real, the community is real, and the trend is moving in only one direction. If this is the new face of housing insecurity in America, it is worth understanding clearly, not as a curiosity and not as a problem to be cleared out, but as a signal of what happens when the conventional housing system stops working for a significant slice of the population. The storage units do not cause homelessness. They reveal it.